Socialism and capitalism are two economic systems that have been at the center of a contentious debate for centuries. While socialism emphasizes collective ownership and control of the means of production, capitalism promotes private ownership and free markets. Both systems have their advocates and critics, each presenting arguments based on their respective ideologies, values, and expectations. In this exploration of the debate, we will examine the key principles and criticisms of socialism and capitalism, shedding light on the pros and cons of each system. Proponents of socialism argue that it is a system built on principles of equality, social justice, and cooperation. They believe that by abolishing private ownership of the means of production, wealth can be distributed more fairly among society's members. Socialists argue that capitalism perpetuates inequality, with the wealthy benefiting at the expense of the working class. They advocate for collective ownership of resources, believing that it allows for a more egalitarian society in which everyone has access to essential goods. To see what happens. On the other hand, proponents of capitalism argue that it is a system that rewards individual effort, innovation, and entrepreneurship. They highlight the role of free markets in driving economic growth and increasing overall prosperity. Capitalists believe that private ownership of the means of production encourages competition, which leads to innovation and efficiency. They argue that capitalism empowers individuals to pursue their own self-interests, leading to a more dynamic and flexible economy. Critics of socialism contend that its emphasis on collective ownership can stifle individual initiative and creativity. They argue that centralized planning and government control over the economy often lead to inefficiency and a lack of innovation. Critics also point out that socialism can undermine personal freedom, as it typically requires a larger role for the government in people's lives. Additionally, critics argue that socialism fails to provide proper incentives for hard work and entrepreneurship, which are essential drivers of economic growth and prosperity. Critics of capitalism argue that it fosters income inequality, as wealth tends to accumulate in the hands of a few. They contend that capitalism prioritizes profit over social welfare, leading to societal problems such as poverty and inadequate access to healthcare and education. Critics also highlight the risks of unregulated markets, pointing to instances of market failure and economic crises as evidence of the system's shortcomings. They argue that capitalism exacerbates social divisions and encourages excessive consumption, contributing to environmental degradation. In conclusion, the debate between socialism and capitalism continues to be a source of contention and vigorous discussion. Both systems have their strengths and weaknesses, with proponents and critics passionately advocating for their respective beliefs. To fully understand the implications of these economic systems, it is essential to explore the arguments presented by both sides. By critically examining the principles and criticisms of socialism and capitalism, we can gain a deeper appreciation of the complexities involved in shaping society and economic structures.